Okay, everyone, a little bit of a disclaimer before we get started with the podcast. We did have some technical difficulties. Skype didn't really want to work properly, where I couldn't have the screens so that we were both showing the same amount. So I ended up having to use a different program, and it just didn't work very well. But the content of this podcast, honestly, I was so happy and so proud of it. So we're still going to post it. There's not going to be any video this time. I know it sucks. Next time we'll be on top of it, though, for sure, 100%. We'll be a lot more on top of it, especially because we know now what happened. That's the little disclaimer. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Just listen, even though there's nothing to watch. There's nothing that we showed anyway that was missing, except for my animals kind of came up and said hi a couple times. So that's really all that you're missing. All right, enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 3, and we're super excited today. We've got a great topic for you guys. I'm Cass.
And I'm Ben. And today we're going to be talking about fad diets, misinformation in nutrition, kind of a broad category here, but it's a lot of stuff that kind of annoys Cass and I, so we're going to rant a lot, and hopefully there'll be some debate.
There will definitely be some, personal beliefs, but also some facts thrown at you. So it's going to be a really good mixture and a lot more of a conversation this week. So it's going to be an awesome topic. So Before we get started, I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit of a story with something that happened to me this weekend. So I went skiing. With my dad, and I was on the lift. And as I was going up, you could see this little girl that was coming down kind of slowly, and then she goes over the steeper part, and she starts screaming. She's just like, ah! And you could tell she's flustered, and then the rest of the way down, you can hear her going, I can do it! You can do it! Yes, come on! You can do it! I can do it! She's just cheering herself on, and she's terrified, but she is that cheerleader in her head. It was the cutest thing I think I've ever seen, honestly.
How old was she?
I want to guess probably between 8 to 11. I'm not very good with guessing kids' ages.
It still sounds cute.
Anyway, pretty young, but and I really resonated with that because when I was younger, going down any steeper part of the hill, I was in my head the opposite though. I was like, oh my god, you can't do this. This is terrifying. What are you doing? Why do you put yourself through this? I was that negative voice. And so I felt like we can really learn from this little girl. I can already tell she's going to grow up to be really strong because she's doing something she's terrified of. She's out of her comfort zone, but she's there telling herself, you can do it. You can get to the bottom of that hill. And let me tell you, she did. She did not crash. She did perfectly fine. She did really well. So anyway, moral of the story, you need to be that voice for yourself because there aren't always going to be other people around to cheer you on. And so this I brought kind of full circle into my coaching with Team Beachbody. And I just want to say, you have to go out of your comfort zone to see change in yourself. You know, that girl's not going to learn how to ski unless she gets out of her comfort zone. And I never learned how to ski until I got out of my comfort zone doing it. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're looking to change your life and to be more active and be a part of an amazing community of people who will cheer you on, jump out of that comfort zone and come talk to me. I'm on Instagram, notcass, NOTCASS, and you can reach out to me there. I'd love to talk to you. So that's it for my Beachbody spiel today. Just a little lighthearted story for the week.
The next time that we work out together, I'm going to be like, you can do it, Ben! This weight is nothing! You're the strongest! You can do it! Okay, so now we'll move on to some commonly believed nutrition myths that just annoy us and we want to dispel for our audience. So, for me, one of the ones that bothers me the most is shark cartilage. So, among these sort of alternative nutrition supplements, shark cartilage is one of the most popular ones. I believe it is the most popular alternative kind of medicine to take, and it sells really well. My mom takes it. I've seen it in other people's houses, so I know that it is commonly taken. And it's marketed as a pain relief. It's a drug for treating arthritis, but it's shark cartilage. So, I mean, right off the bat, you should think that's probably nonsense. And it turns out it is nonsense. They've done studies, and it's kind of it's no different from a placebo. Now, I guess what would be your big concern would probably.
Is this like fish oil? I'm just asking because I see a lot of people recently being prescribed fish oil, and every time I see it at work, all the other nurses are like, "Oh, this stupid fish oil! Like, we don't even carry it in the hospital. The patients have to bring it in on their own." So but it's prescribed by their physicians, so it might have some good effect. I'm actually not. I'm gonna search it. But yeah, that's exactly what it made me think of, because every time I see it and the other nurses see it, they're always like, "What is this? Why are they taking this fish oil? Like, what is this nonsense?"
I mean, that makes me think of snake oil. Like a snake oil salesman. It's nonsense. Although, when it comes to fish oil, I mean, if it's involving omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, that might have some legitimacy to it.
It's supposed to decrease your cholesterol, somehow help with concussions, constipation, cough, and dehydration. I don't know how it covers so many things.
Okay, that sounds dubious. It's too many, definitely too many things.
It's omega-3 is what it's really, yeah, I don't know. Preventing and managing heart disease also, which would be the cholesterol.
But all of that is definitely to do with the omega-3 and omega-6.
Yeah,
because that is believed to help with cholesterol and heart disease and all that. However, and I guess side note here, I did some reading on omega-3 and omega-6, and it sounds like it very far from consensus that it is even helpful in that regard. Even though everybody believes that it is, there seems to be, like, even among the World Health Organization, they're like, it might help a little bit, so maybe it's a good idea to have some, but they're not settled on it at all.
Okay, so back to the shark cartilage. My big concern is what's happening with these sharks.
Yeah, exactly. And on all of the bottles, it'll say, we only use the cartilage of sharks that were already being hunted. But from all the research that I've done, that seems to be the main reason that they're hunted, is for their cartilage for these pills. So it's pretty sad. Yeah. So hopefully they never get endangered because people like pseudoscience.
Huh. Okay, what's your next one?
Okay, my next myth, I guess, would be another one that hits close to home. They all hit close to home, is echinacea. So have you ever heard of echinacea before?
I think when I was learning about, there was this, what was she called? Naturalist? But like an actual physician, but studying like natural remedies.
A naturopath?
Naturopath. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I'm pretty sure she mentioned it.
Okay, so it's one of these really, like, extremely common herbal remedies, and mainly for the common cold, which, I mean, wow, what a miracle. We have something that can cure the common cold or help prevent it. And so anytime I got sick in childhood, my mom would be like, here, take some echinacea. It tasted like garbage. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'm too small to dispute this. But eventually we got internet. I looked up echinacea, and lo and behold, nobody seems to think that it does anything.
I mean,
But it's
I guess it's kind of like essential oils. Like, there's nothing really to back essential oils in the, like, claims that it has. But I mean, like, I'm not going to deny when I use essential oils I feel calmer, but definitely probably, like, placebo. I enjoy them. It's one of those things that, like, I use to treat myself, but I'm not going to, like, not vaccinate because I use essential oils.
No, I mean, placebos are great. I want to believe that my thing, whatever I'm taking, is working. And who knows, maybe the echinacea did work on me as a small child because I thought it might work.
My cat and my dog are playing right under my feet.
Playing or fighting?
Well, depends on which animal you ask. What else was I thinking? Another, okay, Penny. Getting a little rowdy there. Go lay down. Go lay down. Or come say hi. Say hi to everyone in the podcast. There. That's where okay.
It really capitulated there.
Leave the cat alone. Okay. I had another one that I was thinking of. Oh, yes. My mom takes these, like, these allergy pills, she calls them. I don't know what they are, but they're, like, they're also naturopath, and you, like, put them under your tongue and they dissolve. And there's no actual research to, like, back it up yet. But she swears by it. I tried it once, and it just made my mouth really dry. It didn't do anything for my allergies. So, I mean, placebo's a strong thing. That's what I think it was anyway, because she 100% believed it worked, and I did not, so...
Well, I mean, like, that's why people will take these things. Like, my mom started taking this shark cartilage and believed that it would work, even though there is no evidence for it to work. And it has worked. Like, it has relieved her pain. One day I will probably sneak into their house and replace them with sugar pills, and it'll work just as well. But, you know,
Yeah.
I'll be saving the sharks, at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have a myth that I think a lot of people fall for. I haven't seen it as often lately on Facebook, but one of the biggest ones, and in my nutrition class and in my anatomy and physiology class we talked about it, in my biology class in university we talked about it, so it was like touched in like huge courses in my career, and every single time all they said was detox. Anything that says detox, like juice detox or something like that, is like total bullshit. Because if your liver and kidneys aren't detoxing well enough, you should be in a hospital. You're not doing so good. So you don't need a juice to detox. You know, like all these,
I feel like here we need to be clear about what qualifies as a toxin. What is it that the liver and kidneys filter out?
There's a lot. I think it's really too much to. But I mean, I guess a really good example is alcohol. Like, if you drink alcohol, your liver detoxes your body from alcohol. That's when you sober up. And if it doesn't work very well, that's when you get cirrhosis and your skin turns yellow, your eyes turn yellow, and sometimes you go in a coma. But if your kidneys and your liver weren't doing these processes well enough, you would feel it. You would know. So you don't need to do anything extra to help your body do it. Like, if you do need to do anything extra to help your body do it, you should probably be seeing a doctor. And maybe even get admitted to the hospital, because that's bad.
I mean, I wonder what the principle of these detoxes is. Is it are you just drinking juice? Is that what it is?
Yeah, like specifically with like antioxidants in them. Like you'll see those juices and they say antioxidants, and it's all ridiculous. It doesn't do anything better for you. And like
I
most
love
of the time,
the popularity of antioxidants. It just sounds so healthy, doesn't it?
it does. But like a lot of the time, you're really just starving yourself because you're not eating. You're just drinking this juice, and you've got no sustenance. And I mean, no diet where you're eating or drinking the exact same thing over and over and over again is giving you what you need. You need a variety. That's the biggest thing I've ever learned in my nutrition class is you need a variety of like everything for it to work, for your body to get everything that it needs. You need a lot, not just one thing over and over again.
And you're telling this to me, who eat, or at least I strive to eat the same thing every day.
But do you have different things each meal every day?
Yeah, I do, but it's the same routine for sure.
I mean, as long as you have some sort of variety. One thing that I learned, like especially with your vitamins and minerals, to get more vitamins and minerals and even proteins, to get different kinds of them, I learned that you should just be eating different colors of food. So, like, you just want to make sure you've got yellows, greens, oranges, reds. You want to have everything. But you don't have to eat the same, like, you don't have to eat everything every day. Like, you can do it over time. Just make sure that your diet is balanced, like, with the rainbow.
I feel like that's a tricky thing because...
Just want to clarify, Skittles don't count.
I mean, like, a lot of when you read the nutritional information on something, it'll say, like, your percentage daily value. Mm-hmm. And it makes me feel like I need to take in 100% of everything every day. But I have to imagine a lot of these things can stay in the body for well past a day, so you don't actually need to meet quotas every day.
Yeah, like I said, it's really just you want to have a variety, you want to eat different things every day so that your body can kind of like just gain over time, gain all these things, and then once it uses it up, you kind of, it's a cycle, it's a constant cycle. Yeah, I mean, my nutrition class was really informative, but I'm going to be honest, like I lost a lot of the science behind it, but I remember like the broad like takeaways from it. Like if you're really going to learn something, I took those away from it, and the rest of it's kind of gone. But
well, I'm sure that's what people are going to be most interested in, is the really distilled version of the nutrition class.
Yeah, it was really science heavy. We went down to like the build of each like molecule of different foods, and it was really intense.
Yeah, I didn't even take biology in grade 11, so I'm definitely nowhere near that. Which, I mean, it was the easiest science that you could take, or at least that's what people said.
I mean, it didn't have math really involved. That's why people said that. So you would probably do better with chemistry and physics.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I did really well with biology and chemistry, so.
Honestly, though, physics was a nightmare.
I like the theory.
I should have taken that.
I like the theory, not the math.
Yeah. Even to this day, that's my least favorite math, is the physics-flavored stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, back on track, another kind of tiny myth that a lot of people believe that bothers me a little bit is vitamin C megadosage as a cure or preventative measure for a common cold. So whenever I've started to feel a cold coming on, or even just on your average day, I'll be recommended to eat an orange, take 2 or 3 vitamin C pills in order to prevent the onset of this cold. Yeah. But I mean, why would that help? And here, I guess, like, how much vitamin C can the body take in one day?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay, because, sorry. When we talked about it earlier, I was getting confused between calcium and vitamin C. But basically, with any vitamin or mineral, um, you can only absorb a certain amount of it, like at any given time. So, if a lot of vitamins, including vitamin C, um, are a big ripoff because they charge you extra for the higher doses, but you're not even absorbing that much. You're only absorbing the same amount as the smaller dosage of these vitamins. So, like, and there's also, like, supplements that you can take with these vitamins that help them absorb better. So, like, with vitamin C, it's better to take it with iron because you can absorb more of it. It's not by a lot, though. Like, it's not going to crazy change it. And it's probably not going to stop your cold either, really. I mean, just let your immune system handle that. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, I mean, there's no evidence that the vitamin C helps. I mean, there is no, luckily there's no harm in vitamin C megadosage because it's water soluble, so whatever you don't absorb will just exit the body, but it's not really going to help either. I mean, vitamin C, as far as I'm concerned, is one of those incredibly easy to obtain vitamins. Mm-hmm. You could not put any effort into getting your like daily amount of vitamin C, and it'll just happen anyways.
Yeah, I think it's in a lot.
Yeah, it's in everything.
So, since I was thinking of calcium before, now I want to talk about calcium as a myth, because a lot of people will buy, and calcium, everyone knows calcium's good for your bones. You know, you drink a glass of milk to get extra calcium so that you grow healthy, strong bones, like your parents tell you when you're a kid. And the thing about calcium, like, drinking your milk is great, but a lot of people will buy the pills for calcium, and you can only really absorb about 500 milligrams at a time, but people usually buy like the 1,000 milligrams. So this is another one of those scams where they'll charge you extra for the higher dosage. You're not absorbing it at all. It just like goes right outside your body. But if you are going to take calcium, then you should also have vitamin D, and that's the one that comes from the sun. So, like, the thing is during the winter, obviously you're not going to be absorbing calcium as well. But interesting fact, they actually start infusing in the winter, at least in Canada, they will start infusing certain like orange juice. They'll like infuse vitamin D into it so that you're not completely depleted of vitamin D by the end of the winter. Like a lot of different foods will have vitamin D just for the winter.
And I mean, this is kind of more of a Canada-specific problem. Because I have heard that, I mean, like, certain conditions that are more associated with vitamin D deficiency are super, like, non-prevalent in sunnier areas. I think multiple sclerosis is one of them, and it's, like, 15 times the incidence here than it is in the Caribbean. Yeah. So we definitely really need to make an effort to, like, I've got these vitamin D drops that you can add to water, and I'm supposed to put them in every day, and no, I don't, but really should.
Yeah, so vitamin D obviously is a really important one, and like I said, it helps absorb calcium, so if you're not getting any vitamin D, then you're not absorbing calcium as well, and then, you know, you're not building bone. And there's actually, like, different levels at which you grow bone. Like, when you're a kid, you grow it really, really quickly, and then as you age as an adult, you kind of just maintain. And then when you're an older adult, it starts depleting. You're still trying to build bone, but it's not fast enough to keep up with, like, the depletion that's happening. So you really need your vitamin D and calcium when you're reaching older years.
It's a really depressing thought if you are like, really should have had more calcium when I was a child. Why didn't I eat better? Because that's really your best opportunity to strengthen your bones before you're old.
So at the age of 17, I learned that the best time to strengthen your bones is when you're 15. And I'm like, well, too late. Nothing I can do now. Like, you know, when you're 15 is when you should be, like, running and doing those exercises that are harder on your bones, that you build them stronger. But once you hit 15, it's kind of useless. Or it was like an age like that. I was 17 when I learned this, and I remember thinking, I'm past that. I can't do anything about it now. Way too late to learn this stuff.
Like, I'm I hope that what I did when I was young paid off, because I used to drink milk all the time, but
me
I
too.
also, I don't know if I got enough sun. We're here in Canada, and I guess time will tell which one of us gets osteoporosis.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe both. You never know.
I mean, it is more prevalent in women, isn't it?
I think so.
You know what's crazy? Astronauts, they lose a ton of bone density.
Yeah, they do.
Like,
I thought you were just going to stop there. You know what's crazy? Astronauts.
nuts! You know how much training they have to do?
So
I wish I
much.
could be an
No.
astronaut.
Not only that, but all like the education they get too. Like,
Yeah.
anywho, really off topic there. I mean, their nutrition's not really all that great up there either, with those little like packaged things.
And here is where I think we may end up disagreeing, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
Other myths. Oh, right. The big one that we talked about a while ago, aspartame. Now that we're on the topic of natural versus artificial, I mean, look at those astronauts eating all their fake food that was devised by some scientist in a lab. Chemicals. Aspartame is the ultimate. Yeah, it's chemicals.
Oh, chemicals are terrible.
Aspartame it really sounds very chemically, so I'm sure it's terrible for you.
It's awful.
So anyways, we looked this up, and I mean, Cass, she's got a nursing, or what's the textbook that you looked it up in?
Yeah, so when Ben was here one time, we actually dug out my nutrition textbook from my nutrition class, and we looked at aspartame, and it stated in this textbook that aspartame, while everyone thinks it's terrible for you, there are actually no known side effects.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess...
It did say yet. We don't have enough, it hasn't been around long enough for us to have a lot of...
Actually, I don't know. In my research, it seems it's the most extensively studied food additive by the FDA, all these regulatory agents. Yeah, because people are so concerned about aspartame. So I guess in case you don't know what aspartame is, it's one of the most common artificial sweeteners that you'll see in diet pops or diet sodas if you're an American. And everybody has this association between aspartame and, I want to say, brain tumors or something.
Just cancer in general.
Oh, cancer! It's terrible. It's the ultimate awful chemical. And apparently, this was actually started by a chain email in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And it spread this crazy rumor that aspartame was really bad for you, and now it's just widely accepted among people that it's awful.
I heard a few nurses discussing this week.
Yeah. And what did they have to say about it?
That it's awful. That it caused...
Really?
They were like, they thought aspartame was super safe when it came out, now it's causing cancer. Is literally what the nurse said. Word for word, so...
I mean, carcinogens, there is a regulatory body that's really on top of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And aspartame has been very thoroughly studied by that body. And they're like, no, not a carcinogen at all. Your camera just cut out.
Yeah, it's kind of like blinking. It's okay.
Okay.
So just so everyone knows, we are using a different application because Skype decided to not let me half the screen so that we could be the same size. So there might be some technical difficulties. That's why there's some echoes this time. It's really frustrating, but we're doing our best that we can get the podcast out on time. Also, meet Comet. He's my little baby. He likes to give kisses that hurt.
He's just seeking refuge from Penny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on the subject of aspartame, I mean, people don't trust it because it's a chemical, because it's not natural.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you're clearly more on my side. You disagree with these nurses who say that it's bad for you.
I mean,
but
I'm with my textbook. I can't just like see this like Canadian textbook where they've obviously done like they're not just going to publish this, you know, like I'm with you because but I do remember it said that it still needs to be studied over time.
So, I mean, what they've found is that in incredibly massive doses, it can be toxic. But this is if you managed in one day to drink like 100 liters of Diet Pop. You know, something completely physically impossible.
Well,
maybe you would take in enough.
The thing about sweetener is that it is so much sweeter than actual sugar. So you need it in lower doses, which is why the aspartame is supposed to be better for you than sugar, is because you need it in such a lower dose compared to sugar.
And I mean, also aspartame, it has no calories, whereas sugar is energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and here we're gonna, I think, hit our first point of disagreement. I'm gonna ask you what you think is better for a person. Some Diet Pop, and let's pick a caffeine non-Diet Coke. Let's go with like Diet Sprite or something that just some generic pop that has aspartame, water, and it's carbonated, versus apple juice. What do you consider to be healthier?
See, that's hard because like juice in general, it has so much sugar. It's just it's not great for you. Like, okay, hang on a second. Let me fix this mess that's going on.
Jeez, they're really having a battle there.
His claw's stuck in her fur.
Aww.
Okay. Off, Penny. Off. I can't stop laughing. Okay. I'm not cutting that out. That was cute.
Oh, no. It's entertaining.
Okay. That's the thing. I drink juice, but on such a rare occasion. Just because, like, the thing is you drink your calories in juice. You really do. And it takes up so much of your calories to drink juice, and I don't even calorie count, and I know this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, yeah. I don't like the idea of juice. Just it's like a nice little treat. But do I think a Diet Pop is better for you? Yeah, I guess so. It depends on what it is. Like, Diet Ginger Ale is pretty good for you. It's pretty decent.
I mean, the only Diet Pop that I'm a little dicey on is Diet Coke, because if it contains caffeine, there is a negative, and also the dark pops contain oxalic acid, which can lead to kidney stone.
Yeah.
But if you discount those, if you just go for like some generic Diet Pop that's not dark and doesn't, then it's basically water. It's essentially as good for you as water is. There's nothing really bad in it, and it's going to hydrate you.
Like Ginger Ale. Diet Ginger Ale is pretty, like, one of the better pops. So if you're looking for a pop, something fizzy that you can drink, that's really good for you. I mean, there's always like Perrier water, which is like the fizz water, or you could drink Diet Ginger Ale. We actually give out ginger ale at the hospitals, and we will try really hard to provide healthy meals for our patients, healthy and balanced meals. And I think my hospital that I work at does a really good job. I take a look every day at what the patients have, and I'm honestly really impressed with all the hospital food I've seen. This hospital that I'm working at right now has the most impressive meals. So
nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, on the subject of juices, though, I mean, it's not just the fact that it's a bunch of calories, it's the type of calories that are in it too, right? It's sugars, which has a really high glycemic index, and I guess we will have to define that. But for now, it's something that gets broken down by the body really quickly. It elevates your blood sugar really fast, and that's not ideal. So at least as far as I'm concerned, when I'm evaluating how healthy a food or drink is, I'm like, well, okay, what are the good things it provides and what are the bad things it provides? And I'm trying to optimize this ratio. I want it to, if it has a bunch of bad stuff in it, well, it better have some great benefits along with that. And most juices loaded with a ton of sugar, so it better have something amazing. And look, oh, vitamin C. It's not like I can get that anywhere else. So that's why I'm not a huge proponent of juices.
Yeah, juices. Every time I start like a new, or look at a new like nutrition plan, or every time I look at, juices are always like, don't drink juices. Just don't. Don't drink your calories. It's not worth it. Like, if you're really thinking about it, like, I would rather eat my calories in the day than drink them, right? Like, I'd rather have, like, an extra bite of something yummy than drink, a glass of juice. Some days, though, I really am sick and tired of water, and I want a glass of juice, so I do it. But
I mean, you could even just eat the fruit rather than the juice of that fruit.
Well, that's true.
Because, I mean, then you're getting other things. If I eat an orange rather than drink orange juice, I'm probably getting some fiber out of it. There's at least something a little bit better.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really do.
So anyways, now do we want to move on to, I guess, some more technical things?
Yeah.
Some definitions?
Okay, so I guess we could start with macromolecules, because I feel like with our diets that we're going to talk about, it is pretty important to understand what macromolecules are. But I'm going to go over it very generally and like just break it down really easy for everyone to understand, especially because, like I said before, I took away the big general ideas from my nutrition class, not all the like itty-bitty scientific tidbits from it. So the one I think that is the most popular one that everyone knows is a carbohydrate. It's a carb, and everyone's like, oh god, carbs are bad for you. No carbs. So carbohydrates, it's sugar. But it comes in different forms. It's not all the exact same kind of sugar.
Well, I mean, it's not just sugars.
No,
sugar
no.
is a subcategory of carbohydrate.
Yes, sorry, that's what I was trying to get towards. So it's sugar, but it's also other things. Basically, what you need to know about carbs, it is the body's favorite way to produce energy. So it breaks down the fastest. It's the first line that your body uses to create energy. The second macromolecule that is probably also one of the most talked about is protein. Everyone knows protein. You get it in your meat, you get it in fish, you can get it in your seeds and your nuts. And this, everyone's like, oh, it's your muscle, you build your muscle, and yeah, that's true. It also can be used as a source of energy. And then you've got your lipids, also known as fats. And these are kind of your more like long-term energy stores. So when your body is storing fats, storing lipids, it is storing it for later use. It's basically storing all this extra energy that you really don't need to use in places you don't want to see it. And so, anyway, that's what fats are. But it is still a source of energy. You can still use it as energy. You can still break it down, and it still does a pretty good job. But it has a lower yield of energy than carbohydrates do. And then the last one that's not really talked about, and we're not really going to talk much about it, are nucleic acids. And this is what builds your DNA and RNA. And this really has basically nothing to do with what we're talking about today, so I wanted to mention it because there's 4 macromolecules, and those are them. But the 3 you want to remember are carbs, fats or lipids, and proteins. So, did that all make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is to really simplify it. We're looking at what are sources of energy, what fuels the body, and calories. A calorie is, I want to say it's a unit of energy.
Yeah.
And 1 calorie is equivalent to 1 kilojoule, I think. And the things that provide calories, usually when you look at the nutritional information on some packaging, they're all listed at the top, along with, for some reason, sodium and cholesterol is also included there. But the 3 things to remember are fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. They have subcategories, but those are really the only 3 ways that the body can take in energy and use it. Mm-hmm. Am I right on this?
Yeah, that's basically how you simplify it. So that's all you really need to know when we're talking about these diets. All you need to understand when you're picking what nutrition plan is right for you. And since we kind of talked about calories, I just wanted to throw in what you should consume calorie-wise per day. And that's anywhere between kind of 15,000 to 2,400.
1,500?
Yes, 1,500. Oh my gosh.
15,000? What are we, Americans?
15,000 to 2,400. And it changes based on your gender, your age, your goal. What are you doing? Do you want to lose weight? So if you want to lose, yes, sure. If you want to lose weight, you want to take in less calories than you burn. Like, you want to burn more calories than you take in is a better way of saying it. But then that really, it depends on how much energy are you using that day. So a lot of the nutrition plans that I use through Beachbody have a calculator for you because they know the workouts you're going to do. So you basically, you put in your weight, you put in your gender, you put in your goal, and you kind of calculate it all out, and it tells you the set amount of calories you're supposed to eat per day, and it tells you the nutrition plan for your calorie goal. I'm always in the lowest. But
in the lowest of what?
Of this nutrition plan, I'm always in the first category. I should only be taking in for this one it said it was it was really low anyway. When I did the calculations, I was in the lowest amount of calories. But like I said before, I don't actually calorie count. The way I look at my nutrition is I try to have a variety, and I try to make better choices. If I can get it not breaded, I get it not breaded. It's sort of a thing. I used to bread my own chicken, now I don't. I just season it. So, things like that. I just make those little minor changes, and that has been what has led to my weight loss.
I mean, seasoning really helps a lot. It adds a ton of flavor to stuff, and they actually do list the calories on seasoning, and I've read them, and it's hilarious. I mean, I can add so much to my meal for 5 calories. I started putting this mustard on my sandwich that has, I can put a couple tablespoons, 5 calories, and it completely transformed it.
My nutrition plan right now actually counts mustard as a freebie. You can use as much mustard as you want. It's not going to actually count towards anything.
Nice.
Yeah. I hate mustard, though, so it doesn't help me any.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
See, I used to hate it just because of its color. I was like, that doesn't look like something appetizing. I don't want that on my sandwich. And then the first time I tried it, I was like, wow, that's delicious. Why have I been avoiding this delicious yellow paste?
I don't even like it touching me. It burns. I hate mustard. Do you remember that brief period of time they had mustard that came out in I think it was red mustard, and then there was a blue ketchup you could buy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was really bad. It didn't last very long.
Yeah, I think it was kind of targeted at like kids. I believe there was like a purple ketchup. It's like, oh wow,
it
so
was
fun.
Purple. You're right. You're right. Yeah, no, that was really bad.
Okay, so we're back, and back to calories.
Just had to fill up our drinks and stuff. Mine's gonna be really strong because I ran out of juice, so there's a lot of vodka.
Mine is going to be normal because I don't have a problem.
All right, so back to calories, like we were talking before.
Yeah. So I guess a few kind of general things to know about calories, and if you're trying to lose weight, a good rule of thumb is that a pound of fat contains about 3,500 calories in it, and a pound of muscle contains a lot less. I want to say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of, it's between 1 and 2,000. It's significantly less than a fat. And calorie deficit, when you're on a diet, you're losing, your body is going to be essentially consuming itself in order to make up that deficit, because it needs those calories in order to keep you alive. So if you're taking in less than you're spending, it'll say, okay, well, I'm gonna pull it from this fat, I'm gonna pull it from muscle, and unfortunately, you can't really target weight loss. You can't say, I'm gonna do a ton of crunches to make my stomach smaller. It just doesn't work like that. It'll come from it.
It'll build your abs if you want to do crunches. Like it's gonna improve your muscle, but it's not gonna do anything for the fat that's in that area. That's the thing. So it's better. And a lot of the workouts that I do are like compound movements, total body. It's focusing on torching calories less than like you can't, because they understand this. You can't just focus one spot. You know, you can't just do just ab workouts to get that skinny little, you know, tummy that you want. You need to do everything. You need to do cardio. You need to work all your muscles to be able to torch those calories.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a word that I don't really care for, mainly because I think it's a misnomer and it misleads people, is toning. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will use this to refer to a specific exercise like crunches and say tone your abs, and people will associate with this word not only building muscle but also losing fat. And it will build muscle for sure to do an exercise that works a particular muscle. But as far as fat loss, it'll occur across the board. If you have a calorie deficit, you can't aim it somewhere. Yeah. So, I mean, it's possible to be super jacked, to have amazingly powerful abs that are just hidden by a belly, and there's nothing you can do about that.
And, I mean, this is what happens with most women, because we're supposed to have a little extra cushion around our tummy to protect our future babies. So a lot of times we really our bodies like to keep that fat there. Everyone has it. Everyone has that little pouch. We really like to keep that fat there as women, because it's going to protect our future babies. But there's not really anything you can do to just target, you know, that loss. And a lot of people get frustrated. A lot of women get frustrated because, you know, they're working out, and then the first thing that they notice that goes down in size, their breasts, their butt, the things that they don't want to go down in size, but their belly is still there. So unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You can't just target. And it's frustrating because I wish it was that way, and I know every other girl out there wishes it was that way too. But like with the program that I'm doing now, the way I actually found it was with Beachbody On Demand. I like filtered through, and I said that I wanted to slim and tone. And specifically, I would like to fit into a bikini, like, and feel confident in it. That's my goal. That's my overall goal. So slimming and toning is my goal. But we're not just focusing on my tummy, because that's where I need to slim and tone. We're focusing on everything. Every day we're working so many muscle groups, and that's why I really like it. They really understand how to do it properly, and so that's why it works, though.
I like that the program at least says slim and tone, and not just one, because it is necessary to slim in order to see the effects of that muscle.
Yeah, so you're building muscle, but you're burning fat at the same time. You need to do both to be able to see it. Like you're not gonna notice your abs that you're working really hard on unless you burn the fat too. And you're not just gonna burn the fat by doing one exercise over and over. You need, and again, this is what everything comes back to in this topic is you need a variety. You need a little bit of everything to be able to do it.
Yeah. Now, as far as weight loss is concerned, I think a really big misconception, maybe not as widely held now anymore, is that you need to work out a lot in order to lose weight.
A huge part of it is actually your nutrition. You know,
Yeah,
you could work out every day. You could work out super hard to the point where you like collapse. And if you're eating like shit, you're not going to see a single change. That's just how it is. And it's unfortunate because you want to believe that you can eat the things you want and just work it away with the workouts you do, but that's not how life is, so sorry.
It is possible if you are a professional athlete or a huge power lifter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are some gigantic guys have a calorie intake that they need of like 6,000 or 7,000, and every meal they eat is a pizza, and that sounds like the
and
life,
pasta.
but they're also
so many,
yeah.
Yes.
Giant bowl of pasta and a carton of orange juice, just trying to take in as many calories as you can.
But the thing is like these bodybuilders and these bikini competitions, these people, it's not sustainable. It's not a lot of the times that people think that these guys, they walk around all jacked all the time looking like they do in their photos, and same with the women, they think that they looked like, you know, they've got a million muscles everywhere. The fact of the matter is they don't. They basically, like, they cut all salt out of their diet for a few days ahead of time. They go on these crazy little diets that they only do for a few days beforehand to really tone their body in a way that's going to make them look their best. But you can't sustain it that way. It's not a long-term thing. It's just for that photo. It's just for the competition. It's just, you know, it's not...
It's the appearance that's not sustainable. I mean, their lifestyle generally is sustainable.
Yes.
A bodybuilder, you can do that well into old age if you're really good about it, and you can still take in a ton of calories.
But my point being, they don't walk around looking that giant all the time. They'll look nice, lean, and muscular, but they're not going to look like veiny and like that all the time. That is just for their competitions. They don't stay that way. And that's a big misconception. I used to always think that too until I got more into the gym and kind of understood my way around.
It's not just bodybuilders, it's models, it's actors.
Yes.
Whenever an actor has to do a shirtless scene, they're like, oh, well, time to dehydrate myself like crazy.
Exactly.
I'm going to lose like 10 pounds so that I look more jacked. So, I mean, it's the way of feeling a little better about yourself. You're like, well, maybe that's why I don't look like Chris Hemsworth. I mean, also, I need to put on another 60 pounds of muscle, but...
Yeah. So I think this is a good time to go into our diets. I don't know if you want to go first or if you want me to present. I think I'll go last. You go first for your diet.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about.
Okay, before I even go into my diet, though, I do want to talk about, I guess, how many calories a person really should take in. So you said between 1,500 and 2,400. That seems like it's a pretty broad range depending on if you're female or male. We can even say it's around 2,000, like just on average, if we want to be really general.
The actual average is 1,800.
1,800?
That
Okay.
is like the normal,
Corrected.
very, very average. That's what I read today anyway. But, like, I don't really think it should be an average anyway. I really think that you should sit down. If you're going to calorie count and you're going to do this properly, I think you need to sit down and figure out what your calorie intake should be, not what the average should be.
It's really a tough thing to do because your height, your weight, your level of muscle, all of these things get factored in. I myself, I just assume that I'm 2,000 because it sounds kind of about right for a guy of my size. But I mean, what? And here's why you even need to factor in how much muscle you have is a thing called basal metabolic rate.
Yep.
So this is sort of just how much energy your body burns per hour, just doing nothing,
Yeah,
just to maintain bodily functions. And it's actually a really surprising amount. And this is why diet is the main component of weight loss. Exercise, okay, it can help, but a good rule of thumb, at least from people that I've spoken to, is that exercise is maybe 10-20% of your weight loss. Everything else is diet, because your body needs so many calories in order just to function, just to breathe, to keep your heart beating. And then your exercise, okay, you go really hard for an hour, maybe you burn 400 calories. In the grand scheme of things, a very tiny proportion of your daily needs.
I'll just give an example quick here. So in my workout today, I burned about 300 calories. And my Fitbit, it takes your height, it takes your weight, it takes your age, your gender, and all these things. And it tells you how many calories you burned throughout the day. So I have burned 19,040, it tells me. It's also taking my heart rate, it counts my steps, like the normal thing. So that's how it kind of calculates this thing. But that's just as an example. Like, I burned about not even a whole 300 calories when I was working out today, when I was trying to burn calories, but in total I burned, 1,940. I said 19,000 the first time. 1,940. I'm correcting myself this time.
I was sitting here just, I know. Pass.
No, I heard myself. I heard it.
So should I go ahead and get into the first fad diet that we want to wreck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So this one is kind of an old one. It's not really popular anymore, although I feel like everybody's heard of it. It's the Atkins diet.
I actually hadn't.
No? I guess it's because I'm old. That's why I've heard of it.
You're just old, Ben.
Well, anyways, back in my day, the Atkins diet was huge. And it essentially is a diet that tries to reduce the portion of your daily intake, which is carbohydrate, which is kind of making a comeback now. People don't call it the Atkins diet anymore, but people still talk about cutting carbs all the time.
I'll get more into the recent one. That's my diet. So we'll talk about that one after. You just talk about the Atkins diet.
Okay. So anyways, the Atkins diet is essentially carbohydrate restriction, but I've always associated it with like really upping your intake of meat. I've known about people who are like, oh, I'm on the Atkins diet, I'm just going to eat a pound of bacon, which is, insane. It's loaded with sugar. It's definitely going to kill you. And
the
at this point,
and sodium. Ugh.
Yeah, no, it's terrible for you for a huge number of reasons. But and now it's widely believed to be a pretty unhealthy diet, but it used to be very popular. And the only reason that I mention it now is because a lot of the same principles behind the Atkins diet are kind of making a comeback, just with alternate language, and it's unsettling to me. So I want to use the Atkins diet as sort of a warning to people now. Say, oh, remember that? People used to think that was going to work, and it turned out everybody got heart disease and died.
I have a little bit of an aside. Nutrition, like food science, is a relatively new science compared to other sciences. It is a newer research science. We don't have a lot of background on it yet, so it's changing all the time. It is constantly changing. You know, it depends on the year what they think which macromolecule you should be consuming more of or consuming less of. You know, like a few years ago they were saying, don't eat any fats, don't eat lipids, cut them out. But now they're saying just limit them, or, you know, but everything in moderation is kind of what they're saying now. But just to keep in mind, like food science, it's still a relatively new science. What we're saying right now in a few years could be completely vetoed. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they used to back and forth forever on eggs. Are eggs good for you? Are they bad for you? Should you only eat the whites? Should you only eat the yolks? Should you... They flip-flopped on it for decades now. So, yeah, it is changing a lot. There are some relative constants as far as the recommended proportions of your diet, that your energy intake that comes from carbohydrates, fats, and protein. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I guess just for reference, I believe that on average they say about 70% carbohydrates, 20% proteins, 10% fats, something in that kind of neighborhood.
Yeah, it's something like that. Damn, I wish I had my nutrition textbook with me, because it really did break it down into you should eat this much of this macromolecule, this much of your diet should be this one. It really did break it down. But I mean,
it's not an exact science.
No.
There is disagreement on it, but the range of variance is small.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like one textbook will say one thing and then the next textbook might say a slightly different thing. It's like, I mean, even vital signs, as a nurse, like when I'm taking your blood pressure, some resources say it should be this, and like even that changes, so it's varying, it's changing each, it is what it is.
But at least they're all kind of relatively in line.
Yeah, it's like you should have definitely more carbohydrates, then the next one should be proteins, and the next one should be lipids. That's how it goes. That's the order.
And I mean, it should kind of be obvious to a person. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being kind of a jerk saying it should be obvious, but I mean, fats, the body can't break them down that quickly. There's a reason they're the long-term storage unit. So obviously you don't want most of your daily intake to be fats. And then proteins, there are some reasons that you wouldn't want to have mostly proteins as well. It can be kind of unhealthy to have too much protein.
So another thought another thought that I just had, that I quickly want to get out of my head before I forget it, is that I think I forgot it.
And that's what happens when you have too strong a drink, Cass.
Damn. That really sucks. Okay, what were we talking about? Let's backtrack.
You want to get into your fad diet?
No, I had something really, like, I felt strongly about it. What were we just saying?
We were talking about carbs, fats, and proteins, and the proportions of those.
Oh, yes. Okay, so, you know, like, obviously starving yourself isn't the way to go. And again, I say obviously, but some people, like, think that you should starve yourself to lose weight. You know, shrink your stomach is something I've heard people say. You should not be starving your body. Do not starve your body. That is bad for you, and as soon as you start eating again, you will gain more weight than you ever lost. Because when your body goes in starvation mode, as soon as you start putting nutrition back in your body, it's going to grab onto everything it can and be like, okay, we're going to starve again, so let's store up. It's like those people that are ready for the apocalypse and they start stacking food. You know, they've got those, like, rooms full of canned food. It is exactly like that. It's gonna...
Those people? You mean me?
Well, I mean, there's a difference between having, like, a whole storage bunker and having, like, a prepared emergency food. You know. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, your body's gonna be like, oh my god, this happened once, it's gonna happen again soon, and you're gonna end up gaining all this weight as soon as you start eating again. So it is not the way to go. Don't do it that way. Please, I'm begging you.
Yeah, I mean, the body, it learns to get by on less when you start eating less. So suddenly when you're eating more, it's like, oh, well, I've learned to get by on less, so I'm going to continue to do that. It's definitely a bad long-term solution to starve yourself.
Also, a little, a story along these lines. I don't know, have you ever seen 1,000 Ways to Die?
I have seen it on Spike.
So, there was one where this guy, he starved in a jail cell so that he could, like, fit through the bars. Like, he did it to himself on purpose so he would lose enough weight to fit through the bars. He succeeded, and then he went home and he feasted. And when he feasted, because he put too much into his body, he ended up keeling over like half an hour after his meal and dying. And I can't remember the exact science behind why, but don't do that either, apparently, because it'll kill you.
Yeah, no, it's sad. I mean, I guess whenever people have been rescued from, like, I guess, captivity...
Yeah, you have to introduce...
Doctors will... Yeah.
It has to be slowly. I mean, a lot of people who are malnourished start with a feeding tube, usually through the nose, I think. Like, you have to really be careful how quickly, you know, and you always see those, like, medical shows, and this is one thing that they, like, sometimes get right, is, like, you come out of something and you can't eat right away. Like, you know, you've been through this trauma, you've been out for a little while, and you've been fed either through, like, a vein, you've been given, it's called TPN, through a vein, and that's total parenteral nutrition. It's a fancy way of saying we're giving you all of your nutrition from an IV bag into your vein, or you're you're given food that goes through, like, a tube that goes through your nose down into your stomach.
You just hit your glasses.
No?
Oh. I thought I heard, like, a really loud crack there.
I don't know. I don't know what you heard. I didn't hit anything too badly anyway, but yeah, anyway. And when you get these things, like, sometimes even people get it after surgery because they can't tolerate any food. When you do start introducing food, I mean, not just for the nausea that you're going to feel, but for other reasons, you also need to introduce what you're eating slowly, and you start with, like, liquids, and then you go into, like, soft foods, and then you kind of go into minced foods, like smaller chunks of food, just that your body can get used to digesting again. So it is a slow process. So you can't just go from not eating anything for a really long time to binging. It's really not good.
I mean, it makes sense even from personal experience. I mean, if you go a long time without eating some particular food, and then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm going to try eating a bunch of weird things that I don't usually eat. You often feel sick after that. At least that's the case with me, and it's because your body's not used to it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this whole idea of eating yourself to death, essentially, when you've gone a long time in starvation, it can be pretty sad. I imagine for especially like a medical professional, you know, you've got this person who just maybe they just got free somehow. They're out of this dangerous situation, and they're like, wow, now I can have bread. Like, why won't you give it to me? It must be tough.
I can't say I've seen it, but I can imagine it is tough. Okay, well, I guess I'll jump into my diet now, which is everyone knows it. I'm sure everyone's heard of the keto diet, also known as the ketogenic diet. And this is the diet, and it's like Atkins. It frustrates me to no end, and I'm going to science my way through it. So bear with me, because I've brought it down to a level I think everyone can understand. I rant about it every chance I get. I'm personally, okay, I'm gonna just do a little disclaimer. Personally, I am against the keto diet. I don't think anyone should be doing it, unless there is a legitimate medical reason for it, and I will talk about that. However, if you want to do it, consult your doctor, okay? That is the biggest thing. Talk to your doctor. And, make sure you're doing it properly. Do your research. Go to 15, 20 resources to figure out what you're doing and really make sure it's good for you. But I have to say, personally, I think it's awful for everyone unless it is for a legit medical reason. So I'm going to get into it a little bit. So the keto diet cuts all carbs. And like we were saying earlier, carbs, you should have about 70% of it in your diet. So
it cuts all carbs?
So it depends on the level of keto diet that you're doing. Some of it's literally 0 carbs. Some people start...
That's insane.
You don't eat...
You'll die. What?
So here's the thing. People that do the keto diet, they drop weight fast. Really, 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 really fast. Okay? And I'm a firm 100% believer in to lose weight, you need to do it slowly. It is not healthy to lose weight fast. You are doing something wrong if you lose 10 pounds in a week. And that's what people do. I know of people that have lost 10 pounds per week with the keto diet.
I mean, myself, whenever I lose weight fast, I'm immediately concerned. I'm like...
See your doctor if you're losing weight fast.
I mean, if you're losing weight quickly, it's probably not fat, because fat has a lot of calories in it. It must necessarily take a long time to lose it quickly. So if you're losing weight fast, that's either you're getting really dehydrated or you're losing muscle, because muscle doesn't really contain that many calories.
Yeah, okay. So another thing about the keto diet, if you're going to try it, which I don't think you should, but again, that's a personal thing. So if you want to do it, I'm totally non-judgmental. My mom did the keto diet, and my stepdad, they did it together. When they were on it, honestly, they dropped a lot of weight fast. They looked amazing. But it's not sustainable, right? You lose all this weight fast, and then as soon as you stop it, you just put it all back on. And this is what happens to everyone that I know personally that has done the keto diet, is they put it back on. And there have been studies that show, people just gain the weight back after. But anyway, I kind of want to get into the science of what the keto diet is, because when people choose to do the keto diet, usually they learn about the science behind it. So again, it's going to be very general, broad, and fairly easy to understand. But the idea is that in the keto diet, you want to put your body into this little thing called ketosis. And you can measure it in your urine to see if you're in the right amount of ketosis. There is too much, and then there's too little, which is when you're not losing weight. If you're not in ketosis, you're not losing weight. So the idea, you cut all carbohydrates out of the body, which forces your body to start breaking down fat and protein instead of carbs to use for energy. So basically, you're starving your body of energy. And when this happens, these things called ketones are produced from the breaking down of fats and proteins. And ketones, they end up in your bloodstream, and they cause your blood to become acidic. And I'm sure you know acidic, it doesn't sound good. So ketones, they're an acid. And some of them are okay, everything in the world, in moderation, it's okay. But ketones, if you have too many of them in your blood, it can be extremely harmful.
Is blood normally pH neutral or basic?
It's fairly neutral. You don't want to be... It's homeostasis. You don't want to be throwing out science words. Homeostasis is it's a balance of things, which if you take anything out of this podcast, I want it to be... You need a balance in your lifestyle. So, homeostasis is exactly that. It's a balance between acidic and basic. So your blood pH, I'm gonna Google it really quickly because I want to be sure, but I'm pretty sure your blood pH is fairly neutral.
I mean, am I wrong, or is 7 the neutral
7.
point?
Yeah, so it's 7.35.
So it's slightly basic then.
So 7 is the neutral, but like it's kind of like a range is neutral. So you can be, anyway, it's almost neutral is what your blood is. So when it becomes acidic from the ketones, it can be a really bad thing. And there's actually a word for acidic blood caused by ketosis or caused by ketones. And this is called ketoacidosis. And
that's what you want to avoid, right?
yeah, you don't want to produce this many ketones because then your blood is acidic and you can go into a coma. That is what I'm trying to say. So
I mean, I hear you can lose a lot of weight in a coma, though.
You can't eat, so where does it go? But like typically ketoacidosis, it targets, but it shows mostly in people with type 1 diabetes. So these are the people where it is genetic. They usually find out that they have it when they're in their child years, sometimes early teens, but typically they figure out in their child years. It's very genetic. And so basically they have a depletion of insulin in their body. They cannot break down the carbohydrates to make it into energy. So their blood sugar drop. Hang on. No. Their blood sugar rises because they're not breaking down any of the carbohydrates in their blood, but in their body they don't have any of those carbs, so they're breaking down fats and proteins and making ketones. Did that make sense? So basically, as you're eating, the carbohydrates in your blood aren't being broken down, so they're staying in your blood, so your blood sugar increases through the roof. Okay? And so because it's all staying in your blood and it's not being absorbed into your body, you have to break down fats and proteins instead of carbohydrates because you don't have the agent that breaks down the carbohydrates, so your body resorts to breaking down other things. So it produces these ketones. So first of all, your blood sugar is like crazy high, like, so it should be between like 4 to 6 is like the perfect zone. And sometimes it could be like 20s, 30s, 40s even. Like super crazy high. And this is bad. A lot of these people, they end up in comas, they end up on an insulin drip, which, like, again, medical emergency. So with the keto diet, you're trying to stay somewhere between not breaking down fats, and coma. And it's a very fine line. And so my brain can't comprehend why someone would want to risk that, because if you don't follow the keto diet properly and to the T, you could cross that line and you could yourself end up in ketoacidosis and you could end up in a coma. And if we don't catch it as healthcare professionals in time, you could die from this. And I mean, like, this is kind of my science way of explaining it. I don't think it's really ever that drastic, but in the end, it's just not sustainable. You're starving your body, you're dehydrating your body, and it's just not good. Also, one of the biggest things that people say when they start the keto diet is, you're gonna go through that phase where you feel like total crap. But once you get out of that phase, as soon as you stop feeling sick, you're going to feel on top of the world euphoric. Okay? And
that sounds like how heroin has been advertised to me.
Doesn't that raise a tiny little red flag? Like, if your body feels that sick, then is it healthy for you? You need to listen to your body. Like, that's the thing. Your body is going to tell you if you feel healthy or not. And so, like, with nutrition plans that I've been following, there has not been a moment where I felt like, oh my god, I feel deathly ill. And that's what people who go through the keto diet have reported. They say that you go through a phase, like 3 to 4 days, and it's about like a little less than a week into it where you feel deathly ill, like you feel like you've got the flu. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good. To me, that raises a red flag. Like, my body's going to tell me what's right, and if I'm depleting it of one of the major sources of energy, like, it's going to tell me that it doesn't feel good, and then all of a sudden you're going to feel amazing. Yeah, you're going to feel amazing because your body's figured out how to start producing these little ketones that cause your blood to be acidic. So that's how I break down the keto diet in my head, and that's why I don't think it's good at all. I
find it weird that as far as I understand from what you've said, the ketosis doesn't really contribute anything to the weight loss. I mean, it's a side effect of this diet that you're on, but it's not going to cause you to lose weight. So why name it after the adverse effect? It doesn't seem to make any sense.
It's because when you're in ketosis, when you're in that small little range of you're breaking down fats and proteins in the healthy range where you're not making your blood acidic, that's where you should be, you know? And so that's called ketosis, and that's how you monitor it. So there's these little pee sticks that people use, and they pee on them, and I swear to God, people do this when they're on the keto diet, like, daily. This is how they monitor it, to make sure that they're not, you know, doing harm. But, like, if you're starting a diet, my biggest question to you is, should you start a diet that is warning you to do it exactly right, or you might have serious side effects, serious health effects? To me, no. Like, why would I start a diet?
You start a diet where you need a pee stick. That already, I'm out at that point.
I mean, like, not everyone does the pee stick. You know, a lot of people, I've heard people say, like, oh, I can feel when I'm in ketosis. I can just tell because I feel amazing.
They're probably empaths.
No, it boggles my mind how people read up on it, and they're like, they will tell you, yeah, there's all these side effects, but as long as I do it right, it's okay. As long as I don't eat any carbs, I'll be fine.
And I mean, as far as the actual weight loss effects go, it's largely because you're reducing your sodium intake. You're probably mostly dehydrating yourself.
That's a big... So you are dehydrating yourself and starving yourself of the biggest energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, another thing that I wanted to mention is just almost every, like, healthcare professional that is for the keto diet says you should only use it briefly. It should not be a long-term thing, and you should only do it if you're under the supervision of a healthcare professional who knows that you're on it and can monitor you. And again, that says to me, like, is this healthy? If I have to be monitored by the healthcare system, is it healthy for me? I don't think so.
I mean, and what really is the point of a short-term diet? I feel like if I was doing it maybe for some particular event, maybe I was like, oh, I'm going to be in a photo shoot. Okay, like, as long as you know that it's not sustainable. But otherwise, why?
It's back to the bikini competitions and the bodybuilders. Mm-hmm. Essentially, you're doing that, but over, like, 6 months, and that's fucking insane, to me, anyway. But it's not as much about the calories, it's more about cutting the carbs, and I can't wrap my head around it. But another thing, like, I want to say, like, if you have type 1 diabetes, this diet, like, don't touch it. And I'm pretty sure most websites say this. You shouldn't touch it. But also, like, one more con before I get into the pros of keto diet is that it also breaks down muscle. And Oh, it breaks down muscle and it tells you that you shouldn't be exercising for the first step. So you start the keto diet, you do not exercise. You exercise, you could put yourself into ketoacidosis. And so, like, to me, again, you need to have a balance in your life. Balance your exercise, balance your nutrition. Do both. Healthy you. If it tells you not to exercise, I call bullshit right there. It's not healthy for you. It's not. You're starving yourself because your basal metabolic rate that we talked about earlier, that has to be the thing that's burning your calories. So, anyway. Also, I don't want to, I personally, I wouldn't want to break down muscle. I want to build my muscle and lose weight at the same time. I can't think of a single person that goes on these diets that doesn't want to also build their muscle and become stronger. Everyone goes into this diet with this hope of being like super skinny and healthy, and it's a great goal. Do that, but do it in a healthier way that's more sustainable. You can keep up with it, and you lose it slower so that you can keep it off. Like, that's what you want to do in the end, right? You want to keep the weight off. You don't want to just lose it all in a year and then just gain it all back in 3 months, because that's what happens with the keto diet.
Unfortunately, the general principle of a diet in general, whether it's a bad diet or a good diet, is a calorie deficit. And you will lose some muscle. If you're losing weight, you're probably losing muscle. And your goal is to limit the proportion of muscle that you lose. You want it to mostly be fat that you lose. Whenever I go on some sort of a diet, I'm like, I'm going to get weaker. It'll suck. Hopefully it's not too much weaker.
But, like, that's why, like, this time, I'm not looking, I mean, I get on the scale and I look at my weight, but that's not my goal isn't a number. I'm not looking to be a certain weight. I'm looking to see myself in the mirror the way I want to see myself in the mirror, because I'm not so focused on the pounds or the kilograms. I'm focused on, like, my appearance and also my energy. Like, I have felt amazing since I started working out and started focusing more on my nutrition, and that's what keeps me doing it, is because I feel 20 times better than I did before I started. So, and that's how you should feel. I never went through a phase where I was like, oh my god, I feel so sick because I'm working out. No, every single day I was like, wow, I feel amazing because I just did my workout. Like, you know, my muscles, they hurt, but in a good way. Like, I used them today. They feel good. My body feels good. I feel like I torched those calories. I've never once, not once since starting this, have I said, oh my god, I feel so sick because of what I'm doing. I have felt 100% better. So, I think that's really...
It's definitely healthier to not have an emphasis on the number or on how you feel. Unfortunately, my emphasis is always on the number, you know, math, but yeah. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Okay, so also, some people have, like, underlying liver and kidney disorders, that they don't know about yet because they've never experienced kind of any reason to know about them. Like, you know, they're still doing enough to keep your body detoxed. You do a keto diet and all of a sudden, you know, you experience these health issues. They exacerbate them. They start the process of you, like, they could end up you in hospital or back at the doctor's, and then they do these tests. It's these invasive tests, and then they have to treat you. Whereas if you just did it properly and you weren't doing these drastic changes to your body that are really hard on your body, it may have been years down the line before you even had to go through any of this. So, I mean, is it really worth the risk? Because absolutely anyone that seems healthy could have these underlying issues already, and, you know, you do the keto diet and, like, bam, you kickstart your kidney failure or something, and that would just suck.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't know. You could have had, like, years before you even started this process, but no, you wanted to do a fad diet, and there you go. Kidney disease. You're done. You're on dialysis. Like, to me, I would never want to risk that. Now, the benefits, there are surprisingly some benefits to the keto diet.
Can we take a break here?
Okay.
Just because it is getting incredibly laggy. Like, the audio and the video are cutting in and out.
Sure.
I need to close every program on my computer and probably
I have
ask
to pee,
Chris.
so...
Okay. Be right back.
I didn't even know you were back.
Okay, hopefully that has a good impact on the connection. I turned off Christy's YouTube and a bunch of stuff. She just fell asleep down there, but I feel like it was using up a ton of internet.
Okay. So should we jump right back in?
Yeah, I think you were closing up on the adverse effects of the keto diet, and you were
about to do the benefits, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can jump in.
I'm sorry?
I said I can jump in. I know where I'm starting.
Okay.
I know where I am.
Okay. Sounds good.
Actually, I'm just gonna do this first.
You froze, so I don't know what that is.
Oh, I'm just putting lip gloss on.
Okay.
My lips are like actually super dry, so trying not to show my cracked lips on the screen. Okay.
I'm sure the screen is too small for that to be
Yeah,
a
but now
visible
they're
thing.
the opposite. They look super nice and shiny and like plump, so.
Nice.
Okay. So, alright, I'm gonna just jump right into the benefits now, which surprisingly, there are benefits to the keto diet, but only for like two specific types of people. The first has like zero scientific background to suggest why it works, but it's been shown to work multiple times. So there's no like, we don't know the process behind why it works, but it's working in most cases. And that's children with epilepsy. For some reason, it makes them have less seizures. The thing about seizures is that like the origin of them, like the reason why they happen is mostly unknown. And there's not a lot of research into the keto diet because it's so new. I mean, the Atkins diet came first, it was similar, but because it's so new, we don't really understand all of it yet either. So why is it working? I can't tell you, but it is for some people, and if it's working for your kid, then great. And honestly, I really like, if you're gonna do the keto diet, I'm not gonna judge you. Like I said, I've had family that do it, and I've told them what I think the risks are. I, all of my negativity towards it is coming from like, I personally would not do this to myself. But if you want to do it, that's great, that's fine. But I do think, like, honestly, if it's helping someone with something like a disease that is like so traumatic and horrible, then like kudos to you for trying it. It's a very strict diet to be on, but it can be really helpful for kids with epilepsy.
Is it the ketosis that we think helps them, or is it just a reduction in carbohydrate?
We have zero idea why. They're like, everything that I have read has said there's not even a guess. We just know it is working. But if I'm remembering correctly, it's not like, I don't think it works forever. Like, I think it'll work for a period of time. It's also like, there's another one, if you reduce gluten in the diet of kids with autism, it tends to actually like help.
This sounds more like a correlation than because gluten does nothing to anything except for a person who has celiac disease.
Yes, but again, food science is really widely unresearched more so than researched. And I specifically know of people who have put their kids on gluten-free diets and like who have autism, and they have like greatly, like they had hit like huge milestones.
Okay, then we have another thing that we are going to debate because I have some strong feelings on gluten.
Yeah, and I mean I don't know what it is behind it, but it happens. But again, especially I know with the autism one, it's not a permanent fix. Like, it only works for a little while and then it just kind of stops working. But then the second person for keto diet is someone with type 2 diabetes. But I mean, like, really, if you have type 2 diabetes, so this is the one that that you get later in life. This is the people that are diagnosed later in life. And for them, like, I'm trying to like science my way through this again. But basically, your diet should be composed of less carbs because, you know,
you want to take in foods that have a lower glycemic index.
Exactly. So you're, insulin resistant rather than don't have any. Anyway, it can help people, but I don't think you should completely cut carbs. I still think that the keto diet isn't for you, but some doctors have recommended it for people with type 1 diabetes. But really, again, I just think for every single person out there, if you're going to do the keto diet, talk to your doctor, um, and see what they say. Okay.
Even on that subject, there is a lot of disagreement. So, I mean, I have seen what you're talking about is some health organizations will say if you've got diabetes, it might be advisable to reduce your carbohydrate intake some. But even these people will rarely say below 50%. Because, I mean, if only 50% of your diet is carbs, that means 50% of it is fats and proteins, which already sounds kind of bad. And bringing it any higher than that sounds even worse. So you would be hard-pressed to find many medical professionals who would advise this, and even those few would be like, only if you're diabetic, really, does it make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and, like, I don't even really think that many healthcare professionals are going to tell you to do the keto diet. I don't think a single one of them is going to come to you and say, hey, I think you'd be a great candidate for the keto diet. I
mean, they might say a carbohydrate restriction, but just the name of it, the keto diet, sounds awful. They're advertising the ketosis, which is not what it's not beneficial to any. What they should be advertising is saying, "Oh, hey, you're going to be eating some foods with a lower glycemic index, so it'll raise your blood sugar less, and you'll." And again, I don't know very much about diabetes, obviously, but I believe that you want to take in foods that get processed somewhat slower into energy. Mm-hmm. Is that the idea?
Sort of, yeah. That's the basic idea. But I kind of want to move on from this because I had that kind of, I told you before we started recording, I had that like, what the fuck surprise for you that people actually do. And this is also where the amount of calories. So I just want to remind everyone, I said that the amount of calories should be somewhere between 1,500 and 2,400. So there are some people that take the keto diet to the next level. There is a next level from the keto diet. I already thought that this was extreme. But anyway, the next level of the keto diet is to insert, I was talking about the feeding tubes earlier. You put in a feeding tube into your nose that goes into your stomach, and you put on a slow drip, just like literally a bag of nutrients containing 0 carbs, 0, and all you're intaking over the entire day is 800 calories. And people are doing this. This is a real thing. The only other thing that you're allowed to consume is moderate amounts of coffee, tea, and water. Which have nothing in it. You can't have any sweetener or cream in your coffee. You can't have any sweetener or cream in your tea. It's coffee, tea, or water, and that's it.
Wait. Moderate amounts of water. They're even trying to limit your water intake?
Yeah. Basically, you're supposed to be just this 800 calories of this liquid that you put through the nose tube.
Oh, that's so sad.
I read it, and I was out loud. I was like, what the fuck? Who does this? I just can't imagine being, like, that desperate to lose weight. To be that radical about it, and to really put my body at that much of a risk, you know, and I would imagine if someone was that desperate to lose weight, they're probably at a bigger size, and they probably need a lot more than 800 calories.
I mean, 800 calories, even for someone who's tiny,
it's not enough. Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I think it's just absolutely insane.
I mean, someone who's at a bigger size, like, unfortunately, the body just can't eat through the stored fat that quickly. So you won't be able to meet your daily needs by processing that fat.
Again, it's just starving yourself, but making you feel good about the way you're doing it, and I don't agree with that. But we are at like a crazy amount of time in this podcast, so let's move on.
Okay.
It's gonna be a long one.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. I can't stop talking about it.
It is, and there are so many myths and so many misconceptions, and there are so many times where I just hear a conversation of like, I wish I could talk about it without sounding like an ass, you know, because people get very touchy about their diets. So, and like, I really want to reiterate, like, I'm not going to judge you for trying, you know, like, I'm trying my best to be my healthiest me, and different things work for different people, so if it's working for you, then, like, great, that's really, really great. But I do think that there are some core things that, like, you really need to take away from this, and that's that you need balance. You need carbs, you know? You can't just cut out one of the macromolecules. You need all of them for your body to function. You can't cut out a certain food group and say, this is going to be the healthiest thing. No, you need a little bit of everything, and you need to also factor in exercising. Like, you need a balance of everything. That's the biggest takeaway I want people to get from this when they're thinking about starting a diet or starting a nutrition plan or starting an exercise plan. Just balance.
Okay. I want to circle back to a couple of things as briefly as I can. One is, so you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned some people who had epilepsy were benefiting from this diet, and then some people who decided to go gluten-free saw some benefits from that. And a thing that I want to draw attention to is the difference between correlation and causation.
Yes.
It's a big problem. It's a reason why we have. So why do we have anti-vaxxers?
Okay, anti-vaxxers. It cut out for a second there.
I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but why do we have anti-vaxxers? It's because they say, oh, well, there are increasing rates of autism, and we're now in the future, and we're getting more vaccinations. Since both of these things are happening at the same time, they must be linked. There must be causation. Unfortunately, correlation doesn't imply causation. It's not that easy. So you can take any two unrelated things and say, oh, well, I mean, they're happening at the same time, so they must be related, but not necessarily. So I guess as an example, I could say something like, people who eat a lot of kale are less likely to commit crimes, less likely to commit violent crimes. And let's say that's true. Let's say that it's very true. There's a strong correlation there. Does that imply that kale has some, like, violence-suppressing properties? Probably not. Probably what's going on there is that the people who have the means to afford to buy a lot of fresh vegetables, who are more wealthy, are less likely to commit violent crimes because they have money. And similarly, you get people who are like, oh, well, like, more people are getting autism, so the vaccines, that must be the explanation.
But what people are failing to see is that within the same kind of amount of time, we've been changing the requirements to diagnose autism spectrum disorder. So we're diagnosing more people, but that's because we broadened the diagnosis and the criteria for the diagnosis.
Yeah, that's
people are just
exactly
ignoring that, and that's what frustrates me. But I think we can do a whole podcast on vaccines, so I don't really want to talk about it much further than that, because
yeah. So
there's
let's
so
avoid
much
that.
We can talk about.
But I mean, I guess the point I'm getting at there is a lot of people mix up correlation and causation. So it can lead to misconceptions,
It
like
can.
saying, well, okay, I'm eating a lot of foods that contain gluten. So is the gluten causing all of these things? But a lot of foods that contain gluten are grain products that contain other things which cause stuff. And I mean, the names of these components of gluten-containing foods are eluding me right now, but I've definitely read enough to understand that gluten really only affects people who have celiac disease.
Yeah.
There isn't the idea of a non-celiac gluten sensitivity is kind of dubious at best.
I mean, to be fair, there are different levels of, like, say, lactose intolerance. Like, there are people that have an allergy to lactose, and there are people that just have an intolerance. There's the same thing with gluten. You can have a gluten intolerance, and you can have a gluten allergy, which is more like celiac. You can, and I believe...
I don't know. I think we're in disagreement here. The literature seems to suggest that there really only is celiac disease, and then there are a lot of things that seem to be a gluten intolerance, but are actually an intolerance to other things that are in gluten-containing.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I can agree with that. I can see that. I think I did hear that too.
I don't remember the name of it.
But here's the thing,
but
like,
there is something else.
If, for example, like, I have to enter diet, and so I have to enter things like allergies, celiac disease, so I need to enter if it's going to be gluten-free or not. If people have these intolerances to the products that are usually associated with gluten, you have to put in that they have a gluten intolerance. Because we don't call it by whatever that other thing is, so it's still kind of just like this general term. So really, what we need to be doing is calling it by that more specific term. Hey again, everybody. So as I was editing the video, I realized at the end we had another technical difficulty, and it cut off right where you just last heard. We didn't really give any information. It was just the wrap up, so I just wanted to end it off with saying I hope you guys really enjoyed the podcast this week. We really enjoyed making it. We really enjoyed the discussions that we had, and we could have gone on for quite a bit longer. I know it's a really long one this time, so thank you for bearing with us. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything, definitely leave them below. I want to see those. I want to have a discussion like always. And yes, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. If you could hop on over to iTunes and give us a rate, that's like super, super helpful. So anyway, I'm glad that you were here and joined us on this podcast, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.